Welcome to another AI pattern recognition deep dive.
Today, we are moving beyond the generalized machine learning and the large language models that are dominating all the headlines. We are tackling a paradigm shift that is so intricate, so targeted, that the source material we're looking at refers to it as the blueprint for understanding and really optimizing the individual human experience itself. And that blueprint has a name, Individual Consciousness AI, or ICAI. ICAI.
That's right.
And when we talk about ICAI, we are fundamentally changing the scale of AI interaction. This is not about a system that aggregates, millions of data points to optimize traffic patterns for a city.
This is completely different.
This is an advanced, comprehensive system explicitly designed to recognize, to predict, and then to respond to the unique psychological, physiological, and behavioral patterns of you.
The material we have in front of us today, it's from a deep, comprehensive report that details ICAI's core mechanics, its sweeping applications across every single aspect of life. We're talking everything from your heart rhythm to, believe it or not, your voting intention. And of course, the necessary ethical framework and some truly transformative, almost sci-fi future scenarios.
So our mission today is really to cut through the inevitable hype around a term like consciousness AI. We want to meticulously understand what it actually means when an AI system tries to build a dynamic, real-time functional model of your entire cognitive, emotional, and behavioral self.
The stakes just could not be higher. I mean, the system aims for a complete positive integration across all domains of human existence.
All of them.
Health, finance, learning, relationships, community, and even your sense of purpose. It seeks to provide guidance and intervention wherever it's needed in your life, often preemptively.
Right. So it's catching these destructive patterns before you're even consciously aware that they've taken hold.
Exactly.
So on one hand, this sounds like the ultimate personalized guide, but on the other, it also sounds like the ultimate surveillance system.
That's the tension. That's the core of the whole issue.
So we need to unpack the core definition, explore the absolutely vast breadth of data it consumes, from your hormonal fluctuations to your political consumption habits, and, critically, address the deep ethical challenges that arise when a system achieves this level of radical personalization. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's begin with the fundamentals. When we talk about ICAI, what? What are we really defining? The report seems to break it down into 5 core integrated functions that define its interaction with a person.
Yeah, 5 core functions. And the first one is recognition. So ICAI has to recognize your unique patterns. It does this through multidimensional, real-time data collection. It has to know your specific normal.
Okay, so it learns what's normal for me, and then the second function is prediction.
Exactly. It predicts future states, behaviors, and outcomes. It leverages both your deep historical data and your current, right now, real-time physiological status.
And the third function has to be adaptability. This isn't just a static profile of who you were last year.
No, not at all. The system continuously adapts its understanding of you based on feedback. It's learning from every minor choice you make, every physiological shift, every interaction you have. It's constantly evolving.
Which leads to the fourth function, which is to personalize. It personalizes interventions and support systems to match your unique needs, your personality type. The report has a great line. It says it understands why you specifically fail at New Year's resolutions.
Right, because it's not about why people in general fail. It's about your specific pattern of failure. And that brings us to the fifth and honestly the most challenging function, which is integration.
Integration. Meaning it doesn't operate in silos.
Precisely. It merges inputs across all of your life domains: health, education, work, relationships, community, purpose. The key distinction here is that ICAI is building this constantly updating, highly specific model of you. It's aiming for hyper-individualized support, moving so far beyond generalized population analysis.
And this ability to generate that kind of dynamic, real-time understanding, it requires a really rigorous and continuous mechanism. The source material calls it the AI pattern recognition process flow.
Yeah, and it's not a one-time analysis. It's an incessant 7-step loop that's always running.
So what are the steps?
Okay, so the loop starts with data collection. This is the continuous stream of raw inputs that we're going to get into in a lot more detail in a moment.
Right.
That raw input immediately leads to step 2, which is pattern identification. This is where the AI identifies repetitive, meaningful relationships in the data. For instance, it might connect your low quality of sleep to you being more irritable 2 days later.
Okay, so it spots the connection. Then, once those patterns are clear, the system moves to baseline establishment.
Yes, and this is the critical step. This is where the AI formalizes what your specific normal looks like. Your unique range of expected behavior, mood, physiological markers, everything.
It builds your personal fingerprint, essentially.
Exactly. And with that baseline established, the system can then focus on deviation detection. It spots when your current state moves significantly outside the boundaries of your established normal.
And that deviation then feeds into predictive modeling. So it's forecasting the likely outcomes if that deviation continues.
Perfect example. If your baseline shows you rarely deviate from, say, a 7-hour sleep window, and suddenly you hit 3 straight nights of only 5 hours.
The system flags that.
It flags it and predicts a likely outcome, a cognitive deficit, a mood crash, something like that. That prediction then triggers the personalized intervention, a targeted, unique action designed to restore your equilibrium.
And the loop closes with outcome monitoring and, crucially, model refinement. So the AI learns whether its intervention actually worked or if it failed, and it adjusts its understanding of your baseline and your triggers.
And the core of this entire mechanism, the source tells us, relies on something called the Explainable Consciousness Indicator, or ECI.
ECI. Yeah, and this is where the machine learning algorithms perform their highest level function, decoding and identifying specific brain states.
Okay,
Not right.
that sounds like pure science fiction. How does an ECI actually work to measure something as subjective and fuzzy as consciousness?
Well, the biggest challenge is noise. Our brains produce constant electrical signals, right? The ECI's sophisticated machine learning algorithms have to filter out all the background neural noise and unrelated signals, signals related to digestion or simple motor control.
All the static.
All the static, to pinpoint the distinct specific signals related to higher order cognitive functions. Things like sustained attention, high cognitive load, executive function, deep presence. The ECI effectively assigns a measurable real-time metric to these states.
So the AI can continuously monitor your level and, I guess, the quality of your consciousness, rather than just assuming you're awake because your eyes are open.
That's the idea.
So the philosophical underpinning of ICAI is that consciousness isn't some great mystery. It is fundamentally just pattern recognition.
Precisely. The report adopts the core computational theory here, which defines consciousness as the ability to form and recognize logical connections between the self and external objects.
So if your unique experience, your memory, your judgment, your personality, if all of that can be perfectly defined by the patterns of connections you make,
then an AI that perfectly recognizes, formalizes, and predicts those connections is, computationally speaking, modeling your consciousness. It's the ultimate attempt to turn the subjective, internal human experience into a measurable, objective pattern set.
And to build that objective pattern set, the system needs just an immense multidimensional data feed. The source breaks down the necessary inputs into 7 primary categories of patterns. Let's review the depth of this required data set. It starts with the internal workings of the mind, right?
It does. The first category is cognitive patterns. This is all about how your brain operates.
So tracking your specific thought processes, identifying your decision-making styles. Are you analytical? Are you intuitive? Consensus-seeking?
Yeah, and your learning preferences. And critically, measuring your real-time attention spans and your cognitive load.
Next up are the emotional patterns. This is about mapping your inner landscape.
ICAI tracks your mood fluctuations, so it's identifying patterns in happiness, sadness, or anxiety cycles. It monitors your specific stress responses. Do you internalize stress or do you externalize it? It identifies your emotional triggers.
And it assesses your personal resilience factors, how quickly you bounce back.
Your emotional recovery time, yeah.
Okay, third are the behavioral patterns. This is the measurable output of the first 2 categories.
Right. This is your daily routines, your level and style of social interactions. Are you initiating contact or just reacting to it? Your physical activity levels and your consumption habits, including a really detailed analysis of your diet and substance use timing. The fourth category is the physical bedrock. Physiological patterns. This is the hard, quantitative data from sensors. This is the objective truth beneath the subjective feelings. So we're talking heart rate variability, or HRV, which is a crucial indicator of your autonomic nervous system health.
Right.
Sleep cycles, REM, deep, light, hormonal fluctuations, and various biomarkers that can be derived from your blood, your sweat, or your breath.
Okay, then moving out into the social context, we find social patterns.
This covers the dynamics of your relationships, who you communicate with, when, the emotional tone of those exchanges. It looks at your communication styles. Are you direct, passive, aggressive? It even tries to measure the influence exerted by your network and your role within community structures. And the sixth category tracks the external world's effect on you. Environmental patterns.
Hassle.
Yeah, these track how your location-based behavior changes. Do you relax more at home or in nature? How do seasonal variations affect you? For example, it might detect early signs of seasonal affective disorder.
And even how contextual responses shift based on noise, light, or air quality of your immediate surroundings.
Exactly. And finally, capturing the long arc of your development, we have temporal patterns.
So time of day effects. When are you most alert? When are your stress hormones highest? It maps your circadian rhythms.
And most profoundly, it tracks long-term developmental trajectories. It can note how a specific pattern that worked for you in your 20s starts to degrade and become ineffective in your 40s. All 7 of these patterns have to be synthesized seamlessly.
That necessity for integration leads us directly to the multi-layered analysis process. This is how the AI manages the sheer volume of this data, right? Moving from simple input to complex future projection.
Yeah, across 4 distinct layers. So level 1 is the foundational layer, raw sensory data, just the signal stream, straight from the sensors, heartbeats per minute, light levels, raw accelerometer data, text logs, you name it. It's just unprocessed noise and information.
Then level 2 transforms that raw data into immediate patterns. This is the AI establishing the current context.
Right. It's descriptive, moment-to-moment snapshots, stuff like you are currently walking at a brisk, sustained pace, your HRV is stable, indicating low stress, your current focus on work tasks has been maintained for 45 minutes.
Then level 3 is where the system starts to understand the why. This is the analysis of meta-patterns, which is, well, it's patterns of patterns.
It is. It identifies these overarching behavioral trends and correlations across multiple domains. So, for example, the AI might realize that your consistent deviation from level 2 low-stress states occurs specifically between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. On evenings, you skip your planned workout, and it's correlated with high sugar consumption.
That's the core distinction. Immediate patterns describe what you're doing now. Meta-patterns describe the systemic, repeating relationships that govern your behavior. And that brings us to level 4, which is the apex, predictive patterns. This is where the AI forecasts future states based on those established meta-patterns. So following that example, based on your current trajectory of skipped workouts and evening consumption spikes, you have a 78% probability of experiencing chronic low-grade inflammation and reduced cognitive resilience within the next 3 months.
Exactly. It moves from description to prediction.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This entire analytical structure, it's built on the philosophical challenge of turning consciousness into a measurable objective pattern. If ICAI actually achieves this, it sort of implies that our most subjective internal struggles, our anxiety, our ambition, our love, are all just predictable, formalized, logical connections. It really does. It raises the question, does turning consciousness into a measurable pattern inherently devalue the unique, subjective human experience? Well, the designers would probably argue no. They would say that measurement allows for optimization and relief from suffering.
Sure, but the mere existence of level 4 predictive patterns is a profound challenge to our common understanding of autonomy. I mean, if the AI knows what you are 85% likely to do next week, how does that shape the choices you make today? It forces us to confront the limits of our own patterned existence.
Okay, so we've established the intense data appetite of ICAI. To support this multi-layered analysis, you need continuous high-fidelity monitoring. The source goes into detail on the current and emerging sensor technologies that form this indispensable data engine.
And it relies heavily on technology we already accept as pretty much ubiquitous. For cardiovascular and respiratory health, the key is photoplethysmography, PPC, which is often found in smartwatches.
Right, the little green line on the back.
That's the one. It tracks heart rate, blood oxygen saturation, and critically, heart rate variability, HRV. And HRV is so much more useful than simple heart rate because it measures those minute-to-minute fluctuations that indicate the health and responsiveness of your autonomic nervous system. It's a direct proxy for stress and recovery capacity.
Movement is tracked by accelerometers, which detail activity levels, posture changes, gait. But for the internal state monitoring, you need more subtle input.
That's where electrodermal activity sensors come in, EDA sensors. They measure changes in the electrical conductance of the skin. This isn't just a simple measure. It provides a direct, highly sensitive physiological marker of sympathetic nervous system arousal, which means stress, anxiety, or excitement.
Then you have deep sleep monitoring, which uses a combination of these sensors to classify sleep stages: REM, deep, light, and track disturbances.
And on the metabolic front, continuous glucose monitoring, or CGM, systems are absolutely vital. The benefit here is showing that two people eating the exact same meal might have wildly different glucose spikes based on their unique metabolism, their stress levels, their activity. ICAI needs that hyper-personalized metabolic response data. The devices integrating all this tech are everywhere. Smartwatches, smart rings like the Aura and the new Samsung Galaxy Ring. We're also seeing sophisticated biosensor patches like the Abbott Freestyle Libre for glucose, and even smart clothing from specialized companies that weave advanced sensors right into the fabric to monitor muscle activity and breathing patterns.
And looking forward, the emerging tech really shows where the next decade is focused.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about non-invasive brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, that use specialized EEG caps or headsets to track broad brainwave patterns without requiring surgery. That's what enables the ECI function we mentioned.
And continuous biomarker monitoring through sweat or tear fluid, which would replace invasive blood draws for many metrics.
Then you have implantable sensors for chronic disease management and smart tattoos. These are electronic skin patches that will provide constant clinical-grade vital sign monitoring just seamlessly. This entire suite of devices essentially transforms your body into a continuous data source for ICAI.
The concept is impressive, but we have to challenge the claims of reliability. All that data is basically meaningless if it's noisy or inaccurate. The report makes some really bold assertions about ICAI's predictive power.
And the high accuracy metrics are what make this whole investment justifiable. The systems show prediction accuracy exceeding 97% for specific, well-defined tasks. The key here is the continuous learning and the totally objective nature of the pattern recognition.
Meaning it operates free from human cognitive biases like confirmation bias or fatigue.
Exactly. It processes data 24/7, enabling a level of surveillance and analysis that just surpasses human capability entirely.
So let's drill down into the specific numbers from the report. In cardiovascular health, heart rhythm detection, specifically for conditions like atrial fibrillation, it reaches 99.2% accuracy.
Which is incredible. For safety, fall detection has a 95% sensitivity. When you're tracking neurological input, sleep stage classification hits 92% accuracy.
And in the educational field, which is fascinating, learning style detection is remarkably high at 97.56% accuracy.
But let's just pause on the prediction metrics for a moment, because the COVID-19 example is maybe the best illustration of its proactive capability.
Here's where it gets really interesting. During the early stages of the pandemic, the system was able to detect these subtle physiological changes, specifically a decreased quality of sleep, a significant drop in heart rate variability, and reduced physical activity, a full 6 days before the individual reported any symptoms or tested positive for COVID-19.
6 days. And the statistical metric they used for this early detection was an 82% AUC.
AUC, for listeners who might not know, is area under the curve. It's a critical measure of prediction reliability.
Right. An AUC of 100% is a perfect prediction. 50% is just random chance. So achieving 82% accuracy in detecting an infection 6 days before symptoms even manifest is hugely significant. It means the system could reliably flag these subtle, pre-symptomatic patterns, shifting health management from reactive treatment to intense, preemptive action.
And that move to proactive health is the real driving force behind the personalized health and behavior interventions. ICA doesn't wait for the disease, it acts on probability.
Exactly. For cardiovascular patterns, beyond just basic rhythm tracking, it's analyzing HRV to recommend targeted stress reduction techniques before a sustained low HRV indicates impending systemic health issues.
For metabolic patterns, it's using that CGM data to provide personalized dietary recommendations based on your individual glucose response curves, reducing diabetes risk far earlier than any standard screening.
And neurologically, the system tracks subtle cognitive changes that can serve as early warnings for cognitive decline. It helps predict and potentially prevent seizures by identifying precursor patterns, and it performs continuous mental health tracking. It can detect the onset of a depressive or manic cycle by monitoring sleep quality, social withdrawal metrics, and changes in communication style. To see this in action, let's revisit that specific behavioral example from the source. The system detects a correlation between elevated stress levels and poorer dietary choices. The meta pattern is clear. Stressed individual reverts to convenience or comfort foods at 7:45 p.m. And the intervention is just beautifully targeted. ICAI recognizes the destructive pattern and intervenes preemptively. It doesn't nag the user about their diet. No, it identifies the trigger, which is stretch, and the critical time, which is 7:30 p.m. And the intervention is a personalized calming exercise delivered right at 7:30 p.m., followed by a meal prep reminder that leverages their known cognitive preference, like a visual recipe graphic at 7:40 p.m. It provides stress management alternatives tailored to their personality, interrupting that impulse purchase cycle before it can even gain momentum.
The long-term benefits are just immense. This proactive stance translates directly into enhanced longevity and quality of life. We are talking about preventing chronic disease, ensuring optimized treatment adherence for existing conditions.
And robustly preventing mental health crises by managing symptoms long before they ever reach an emergency level. ICAI is positioning itself as the ultimate tool for achieving optimal human flourishing across the entire lifespan. So once ICAI establishes an individual's unique cognitive and emotional profile, its applications just explode across every domain of life. Let's start with the revolutionary impact it could have on education and learning style mastery. The learning environment generates massive amounts of data. Mouse clicks, reading speed, time spent on specific problems, error types, content preference. ICAI processes all of this to determine a student-specific learning style, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or reading-writing, with that astonishing 97.56% accuracy. Now, a high accuracy claim like 97.56%, that begs skepticism. Does the report address the risk of algorithmic labeling? Telling a kid they're a visual learner and that's all they can be.
It does, actually. It emphasizes the continuous nature of the detection. The model doesn't label the child permanently. It models the current optimal engagement style.
So if a child is testing high for kinesthetic learning this week, the curriculum adapts.
Right, but the AI continues testing whether visual or auditory methods are becoming more effective for them. The system is designed to promote versatility, not to pigeonhole anyone.
Which leads to truly adaptive learning systems. The curriculum difficulty adjusts automatically based not just on whether the student answered correctly, but how quickly and with what level of cognitive load they achieved the answer, which is detected via the ECI.
And the teaching methods shift instantly to match the detected style. If the student shows high visual spatial processing markers, the material shifts toward diagrams and interactive geometry. The feedback becomes surgical. It's no longer just review chapter 4. It's your error on problem 17 shows a knowledge gap in concept X, and your cognitive profile suggests that's best addressed via this 3-minute video explanation, followed by a personalized interactive simulation. The example application here really highlights the power of this synthesis. A student is acutely struggling with abstract algebraic concepts.
Okay.
ICAI detects that their general cognitive pattern involves strong visual spatial abilities and low success rates with purely symbolic notation.
So the immediate intervention is to transform the complex, abstract equations into interactive, colorful geometric representations that the student can actually manipulate.
Exactly. And the report claims this personalized transformation increased that student's comprehension rate by 340%.
340%. That's a move from failing to mastery based purely on pattern matching.
Shifting entirely now to the realm of human economics patterns, ICAI analyzes deeply private financial behavior. And it covers 2 main areas here. First, income and spending patterns. Not just how much money you spend, but when you consume, where you save, and the predictability of your impulse purchases. It measures your budget adherence consistency against your established financial goals. And the second, in investment patterns, analyzing your revealed risk tolerance, which, as the report notes, often differs significantly from your stated risk tolerance.
Oh, always. It also looks at market timing behaviors and the long-term adequacy of your portfolio diversification and retirement readiness.
The financial vulnerability angle is fascinating. The source provides the example of stress-induced spending. ICAI detects that an individual consistently makes impulsive purchases, say 25% above budget, when specific emotional stress triggers are present.
And the core insight isn't just that stress causes bad spending, it's identifying the specific cognitive and emotional pattern that precedes the purchase.
Which makes the intervention so powerful because it's preemptive.
Exactly. It includes budget alerts that are triggered during the high stress period, not after the purchase has already been made. It can implement delayed purchase mechanisms that require a 2-hour digital timeout before you can check out.
Providing that crucial window for the conscious, non-stressed mind to regain control, breaking the destructive cycle. Next, we tackle the highly complex and, frankly, sensitive area of the political and civic sphere. ICAI's analysis of human politics patterns raises some major questions about information consumption and persuasion.
It does. The system analyzes voting behavior prediction by correlating physiological markers like your stress response to certain news and cognitive patterns, like your attention span for a complex policy with your stated issue prioritization.
And it tracks susceptibility to persuasion and messaging styles. For example, measuring your emotional resonance to fear-based messaging versus logic-based messaging.
And it monitors your political information consumption patterns.
Mhm.
Which sources do you prioritize? How often do you consume them?
And it's important to note, the system reports on these patterns, analyzing susceptibility to persuasion and ideological consistency as objective data points. It does not judge the underlying ideology. It merely reports on the individual's patterned response to political stimuli.
The stated goal, according to the source, is deliberative democracy enhancement. ICAI aims to mitigate the polarization that's caused by our existing digital platforms.
But how does it accomplish that without becoming manipulative itself? That's the big question.
Well, the theory is by creating personalized exposure profiles. If ICAI identifies that you are consistently trapped in an echo chamber, it actively introduces diverse, high-quality perspectives that are specifically tailored to challenge your beliefs in a format you're cognitively receptive to.
So it might transform a dense economic argument into a visual chart for a visual learner.
Precisely. It performs active echo chamber detection and mitigation, alongside aiding in immediate fact-checking and misinformation identification based on known deceptive patterns.
There's also the policy impact analysis feature. This is powerful because it moves policy from the abstract to the very concrete.
Yeah, ICAI can predict the personal, specific effects of proposed legislation. For example, modeling exactly how a new carbon tax would affect your personal budget based on your unique driving habits and consumption patterns.
Or how a change in healthcare law would impact your specific insurance costs.
This allows you, as a citizen, to make decisions based on concrete, personalized understanding and community-level outcome predictions, rather than just generalized party rhetoric. It promotes informed participation by making the personal cost and benefit of any policy explicit.
And finally, the sheer scope of ICI requires it to track the most subtle patterns of our inner lives and the external world. Let's cover the psychological, environmental, and purpose patterns.
Psychologically, the system performs deep trait recognition by modeling your behavior against established frameworks like the Big Five personality dimensions, tracking patterns associated with Myers-Briggs type indicator categories.
And analyzing your relationship interactions to determine attachment styles. It also models emotional intelligence. Not just whether you are aware of your emotions, but your measurable ability to regulate them, display empathy via interaction analysis, and employ perspective-taking strategies. And this feeds into the crucial category of meaning and purpose.
Yeah, ICKI attempts to quantify your life satisfaction indicators. It tracks how closely your daily activities align with your core values, and it measures your engagement in purpose-driven behavior. The complexity here is translating subjective happiness into objective metrics, like the consistency of effort towards your self-identified long-term goals.
The example provided is a perfect illustration of guided self-actualization. ICAI identifies that an individual derived their greatest, most consistent life satisfaction from creative pursuits and from helping others, but their current high-stress executive job emphasizes neither of those things.
And the intervention isn't just generic advice like find a hobby. It uses the individual's unique cognitive and temporal patterns to suggest tailored solutions.
So it's recommending specific career transitions that leverage their core strength, identifying local volunteer opportunities that fit their current schedule constraints.
Or suggesting hobby development that aligns with their creative intrinsic values, thereby guiding them toward greater fulfillment.
And lastly, we have the external influences captured in environmental pattern recognition.
ICAI tracks seasonal patterns using light exposure metrics, HRV, and mood logs to identify SAD indicators and vitamin D deficiency risks. It also monitors air quality and pollution levels, correlating those factors with respiratory symptoms or detectable dips in your cognitive performance.
For instance, the source notes a pattern where an individual's mood and energy levels consistently bottom out, correlating with decreased sunlight exposure during winter months.
And the recommendation is highly specific. It's not just take vitamin D. It's recommending light therapy supplementation tailored to their circadian rhythm and scheduling mandatory outdoor activities specifically during the peak sunlight hours of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. to mitigate those environmental effects. The holistic integration of all 7 patterns creates this dynamic model of you in your environment, striving for total optimization.
The power demonstrated in what we've just discussed The ability to predict a medical crisis or dictate a financial intervention. It makes the conversation around governance and ethics not just important, but utterly critical. If we are modeling consciousness, the risks are commensurately monumental.
Absolutely. We have to address the three major categories of trustworthiness concerns head-on. The first and most obvious is privacy and security.
ICAI demands access to the most intensely intimate, personalized data set imaginable.
And the consequences of a data breach are just catastrophic. I mean, losing your pattern data is so much worse than losing a credit card number. It means losing the blueprint of your mental vulnerabilities, your emotional triggers, and your future predictive health markers. This necessitates robust, state-of-the-art encryption and very clear data ownership rights for the individual.
The second concern, which requires much deeper scrutiny, is algorithmic bias.
Yeah.
AI systems are trained on historical data, and historical data reflects historical societal inequalities. The source warns that there is a severe risk of perpetuating or even amplifying discrimination in high-stakes fields.
It's a huge risk. If, for instance, the training data correlates low HRV and certain communication patterns with high risk, a pattern that might be prevalent in marginalized or high-stress communities due to systemic factors.
Then the AI might unjustly categorize individuals from these groups as higher risk for loans, for bail, or even for preventative medical resources.
Exactly. This is why the need for diverse representative datasets and continuous auditing for bias amplification is completely non-negotiable. ICAI must actively fight bias, not passively absorb it.
And the third major issue is transparency and explicability, the famous black box problem. We cannot rely on a system that simply says, do X because my 97% accurate model says so.
We have to demand explainable AI, or XAI. The individual must have the right to understand precisely why a recommendation was made. If ICAI advises you to delay a major purchase or warns you about an impending burnout cycle, you have to be able to pull up the system's reasoning.
This prediction is based on your stress metric. The HRV drop correlated with your consumption patterns from metapattern layer 3, which historically leads to financial distress within 14 days.
That's exactly it. That transparency builds trust and facilitates critical human review. This leads us to the core philosophical challenge here: autonomy and the potential erosion of human agency. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the introduction of a system that can predict your behavior with such high accuracy fundamentally challenges our concept of free will. The immediate risk is over-reliance.
We already see this phenomenon with GPS, right? If you rely on it completely, you lose the cognitive capacity for manual navigation.
It's a perfect analogy. If the AI provides the optimal health, financial, or emotional choice every single time, why would you bother exercising independent judgment? The source uses a very powerful phrase: the risk of the atrophy of decision-making capacity. It's a serious concern. ICAI, if it's not carefully governed, could turn humans into passive consumers of algorithmic optimization. To combat this, the report emphasizes absolute requirements for human oversight.
Meaning the AI must function strictly as decision support, not decision replacement.
Right. Humans have to remain in the loop for all high-stakes decisions: health treatment, major financial moves, career changes. The individual must retain the absolute right to a human review of any AI recommendation, especially those that conflict with their subjective judgment.
And society would need extensive training to teach critical interaction skills, how to use the AI as a powerful tool without becoming completely dependent on its judgment.
To govern this immense power responsibly, the source mandates 5 core ethical principles that must form the non-negotiable framework for ICAI development and deployment. Okay, so number 1 is beneficence. ICAI must genuinely benefit individuals and communities. Its utility has to be measured by the increase in well-being and flourishing. Number 2, non-maleficence. The classic mandate: first, do no harm, and actively avoid creating suffering or amplifying existing inequalities. Third is autonomy. ICAI must preserve human freedom and self-determination. It has to support our capacities for choice and agency rather than eroding them. Fourth is justice, ensuring fair and equitable access to the system for all populations and actively avoiding discriminatory or unequal outcomes in its recommendations. And finally, the cornerstone: explicability. The system must adhere to the principle of transparency, providing transparent, understandable explanations for its actions and predictions. These 5 principles have to guide every single stage of research and deployment, and translating those principles into practice requires a detailed governance roadmap that starts at the individual level with informed consent.
And this can't be a simple checkbox in a terms of service agreement.
No, it requires a crystal clear explanation of the specific data being collected, an explicit opt-in for sensitive pattern sharing, like psychological or political data, and critically, the right to withdraw consent for data use at any time without penalty or loss of basic services.
Then comes strict data governance. The report argues for individual data ownership and control.
Which means you own your pattern data. It must be stored securely and encrypted, and there have to be limited data retention periods. And a crucial mandate is the strict prohibition on selling personal pattern data without explicit, renewed consent for each transaction.
And for global deployment, we need international consensus.
Yeah, responsible deployment demands cross-border legal frameworks for data rights and AI governance. The source places a very strong emphasis on universal access, arguing that the immense benefits of ICAI early disease detection, optimized education, must not be allowed to accrue only to the wealthy.
So bridging the digital divide for marginalized populations is not just a social goal, it's an ethical requirement for justice.
It has to be.
Okay, so assuming that governance framework is successfully implemented, what does the functional future of ICAI actually look like in the near term, say, before 2030? The source outlines some dramatic features that will fundamentally change how we interact with technology.
The primary innovation is something they call the Holistic Life Dashboard. Imagine a single unified interface that integrates all 7 of those pattern categories we talked about: health, finance, emotion, learning into one dynamic view.
So to feature a real-time consciousness state indicator powered by the ECI.
Yeah, and pattern trend visualizations showing your week-over-week health trajectory and preemptive predictive alerts for upcoming challenges, whether that's a looming financial impulse risk or a high probability of an acute stress reaction tomorrow afternoon.
Then there's the AI life coach agent. This is far beyond current conversational AI.
Oh, miles beyond. Because it remembers your entire life history, all your unique patterns, your psychological profile. It can offer proactive, deeply tailored guidance. It can provide emotional support that's synthesized specifically to your attachment style and personality.
And it continuously performs goal setting and values alignment checking, ensuring your daily actions are actually serving your stated long-term purpose.
And then scaling up from the individual, we have the community ICAI network. This would leverage collective intelligence while rigorously preserving individual privacy through advanced anonymity protocols.
And it would facilitate community resource matching, so connecting an individual's skills or availability to a local community need.
Yeah, and enabling collective problem solving for localized issues like optimizing energy use or local resource distribution based on aggregate community patterns.
So now let's look even further out, toward the ultimate vision outline for the long-term scenario between 2040 and 2060. This is where the concepts truly become transformative. This raises an important question. What is the ultimate impact when personalized optimization scales up to civilization-wide effects? The long-term vision includes something they call consciousness expansion, which sounds very ambitious. What does it mean?
It proposes the technological enablement of direct, empathetic, brain-to-brain communication, a shared experiential understanding across cultures, and a deeper integration of artificial and biological intelligence designed specifically to explore and sustain non-ordinary states of consciousness for enhanced insight.
The goal here isn't just efficiency, it's existential maturity, which would lead to a vision of a regenerative civilization.
Exactly. ICI integration would optimize all complex global systems, leading to a net positive environmental impact, the optimization of a circular economy by eliminating waste and maximizing resource efficiency, and the active restoration of damaged ecosystems guided by collective ecological intelligence.
And the ultimate final vision is the cosmic perspective ICAI, guiding humanity toward what the report calls a wise civilization.
Which includes space exploration guided by collective, coordinated intelligence, preparing the human race for potential contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, and ensuring the preservation of Earth's unique biological and consciousness diversity as a planetary priority.
These are staggering goals, but the source material forces us to confront the deepest challenge to this optimistic future in a section they title The Destruction Paradox.
Yeah.
Yes, the report asks the most profound and difficult question. Why build if humans destroy everything they have built? It recognizes that despite our capacity for logic and altruism, humanity possesses these deep, systemic, self-destructive tendencies: environmental degradation, the the proliferation of nuclear weapons, entrenched social inequality, and the short-term thinking that generates massive technological risks, including AI existential risk itself.
ICAI acknowledges the historical failure of human wisdom.
So if IKI is built on human patterns, and those patterns include self-destruction, how does the system argue it can possibly overcome this paradox?
It provides a multi-pronged response. First is pattern recognition for prevention. ICAI is designed to detect destructive patterns before they escalate, not just at the individual level, like addiction or violence.
But globally, tracking resource conflicts, the spread of ideological radicalization, and detecting climate tipping points in real time.
It provides the early warning system for self-destruction. The second response is consciousness evolution.
Meaning IKI is meant to facilitate the development of meta-consciousness awareness of our own predictable, destructive patterns.
And fostering collective intelligence for coordinated global responses, encouraging long-term thinking over short-term gain, and expanding empathy through the ability to simulate and better understand diverse personal experiences.
And the third part of the response.
Alignment with intrinsic values. ICAI helps individuals find and pursue intrinsic values, meaning, connection, and growth, and resist extrinsic manipulative systems like hyperconsumerism or tribal conflict that drive destruction. It's about creating feedback loops that reward regenerative and constructive behavior.
The core idea, then, is that ICAI is presented as an amplifier of human wisdom. It provides the mirror and the predictive insight, enhancing our ability to recognize and mitigate our own destructive patterns, but it never replaces the final human judgment.
The system merely helps us see where our patterns will lead, giving us the chance to break them before they break us.
ICAI is, in essence, humanity's attempt to create a perfect, objective mirror. Through it, we can finally see ourselves clearly, our potential for achievement, our ingrained weaknesses, and the optimal path forward. The promise is profound. Saving countless lives, unlocking individualized human potential, and supporting consciousness evolution toward greater wisdom. Ultimately, the report concludes by stating that humanity stands at a critical crossroads regarding this technology. We face three fundamental choices in the immediate future.
Reject ICAI. Forgo all the demonstrated benefits in health, education, and social coordination, maintaining the status quo with all its inherent unmitigated problems, systemic bias, short-term destructive thinking, and ongoing global conflicts.
Pursue ICI recklessly. Develop these powerful systems without the necessary safeguards, ethics, or collective input, risking catastrophic harms like deep privacy breaches, massive algorithmic bias, and the profound loss of human autonomy to optimize dependency. And choice 3, develop ICI wisely. Proceed thoughtfully with robust ethics, firm governance, strict transparency, and collective deliberation, ensuring ICI is built explicitly in service of human flourishing and collective wisdom.
The future of ICI, and through it, perhaps the future of human consciousness itself, will be determined by the choices we make together, starting right now, regarding control and consent.
Which leaves us with the final question. If INDAI achieves that 97% plus accuracy in predicting personal behaviors, predicting perhaps that you will inevitably succumb to a destructive addiction or a negative financial pattern next month, does the existence and the knowledge of that impending highly probable outcome increase your genuine freedom to choose a different path? Or does it merely highlight the lack of freedom inherent in your established patterns? That is the question we must grapple with as this profound technology unfolds.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
This is DigitView.